Well, it's all very convenient. It's how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom of speech and branding them as criminals. But you established that the victim was stabbed from the outside of the hut through the reed screen walls. No one but you was in place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of the blade. A perfectly logical deduction. So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. What are you talking about? Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up. What? Under scrutiny. Explain yourself, witness. What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. Poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that deadly poison we're developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim. Miss Brett, is that right? That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used. I see. So presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed. Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her body. Oh, how refreshing to hear an argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely. It matters not a jot who stabbed whom in whose back and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by a knife, but by the poison.
Objection!
But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already—
Objection!
Forgotten already, have we, yokel? During these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at our side assisted in providing. The blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever. So let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by the defense this trial, turns out to be a headline making a red herring. Is that about right? Well, order! But where does this leave us? How in the case did the poison enter the victim's body? It's an undeniable, obvious answer to that. But it most likely embedded it. You mean she drank it? Have another look at the photograph here. Let's see. A bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked down to the sandy floor on the beach. poison could have been slipped into either. So somebody made Miss Brett drink? Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Hey! Why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It would make no sense at all that a poisoned woman would it, I mean, that's been established already.
Hold it!
Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given the person who established it was you. Me? What on earth does he mean? Oh, let me capture those wide eyes. This prim press fodder this is. But it seems this trial is not destined to end yet, after all. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony. That's great, that is. Let me give a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency. Claim to be, impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such claim. I'm a journal, and I'm a man. I never try to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now, because that's minimism. For a brief moment, I thought I illuminated the truth. It simply slipped right back into obscurity again. So where is this trial going to take us? Complete innocence. Ah, yes! I stabbed the English woman. That's the very fact that proves I'm innocent. As why would I have bothered to stab the woman? I already poisoned her. When I heard the stupid girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. The courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did. Someone else would have to see justice done. Oh? So you admitted then that everything happened as I described. That you are the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the reed screen. To blame this miserable country for a country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what all our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of a charming lady's back. I plunged the blade of my sweet justice right in there. Someone who spends his life seeing the truth is told. Oh, really awful about giving false information in my testimony. But as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got her before me. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Now there's a woman after my own heart. You're implicating Ray again? He's the one who gave the poison to the English woman and in her pitiful existence. Suddenly, snap! This journo here is off the hook. The argument is sound, certainly. The witness had administered the poison himself. He need only have waited for it to take effect. Consequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical. And therefore, this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, not quite logical. That's right, it is. Logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice, at last. It's unbelievable. Not After I made such progress in proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? Think of Kazuma-san, Naruhudo-san. Never stop looking for a way forward till the judge's final gavel. Very well then, Consul. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial. Yes, Your Excellency. Such a little shit. Okay. Stab the English woman. It's the very fact that Friz all gonna say.
Hold it!
So, you do admit that you had murderous intentions towards Miss Brett, then? Ah, the woman's very existence offended my sense of justice. Your sense of maybe some sort of righteous indignation? She was pure evil, cold-blooded killer who committed murder right here on our Empire's soil. But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance. So I had to step in. Fly the flag of justice. Put things right for the people. Yes, it was my civic duty. That's what drove me to do it. So, in summary, murderous intentions then. Whatever you want to call it, the point is, that Englishwoman was a blight. So I had to do what was right for society. And a real wrong was done by a student girl in the dock. A crime for which she must pay. Obviously, because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all. Why would I bother? I don't think you knew the poison was administered in her, and you're just using it as cover. That makes the most sense.
Hold it!
So you still maintain that you didn't give the poison to the victim? Obviously! That'd be like putting a belt on your trousers when you were already wearing braces like these. The accused administered the poison, following which this witness stabbed the victim. Unforgivable act, certainly, but not one of murder. That crime rests on the accused's shoulders. That is how the law works, you see. Who knows, you may even learn something here today. 2 consecutive attempts at her life, in the space of 2 minutes, and a day for a victim. Do something that evil and your God would come in. And that's how the law works. The law of reckoning. It's not the kind of law this court holds. You reiterate why you were compelled to stab the victim of that witness. Okay. Got my goat. It got your goat, but I have a goat. There's something where you are they arguing about. About what happened to that restaurant 9 months ago. That's all. Dinner girl was laying an Englishwoman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Watson. Yes, John H. Wilson. Professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikotoba. Right, but the Englishwoman just jeered. Her case was to be heard by a British consular court in Shanghai. However, there is little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman. Was eating the student girl up inside. You could see it. No, I really fell for her. I can't! I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Right? Oh, girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whatever you feel like. No, you can't. I'm sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. This awful man is making all of this up. Sato, please, you have to make them listen. Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We're in the middle of a cross-examination.
Hold it!
Your Excellency, please, I implore you. The journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly. He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, grape-peeping Tom. Whoa. Take it easy there. Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say. Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remarks. I will grant the request of the defense. But, Your Excellency! This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. So, whilst recognizing that this contrivancy's regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak. Oh. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It has something to do with Dr. Watson. You're discussing the stolen poison.
Hold it!
Stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Watson. Wilson. That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. Surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if they manage to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. That's true. I persisted, Professor Mikotoba, until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. As I left, it was stood from top to tail. The spread rather bluntly reveals the existence of the toxin we've been developing. Since Suzuki-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away, other than the fact that it was extremely potent substance. I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with deadly poison. I wanted to look at my old enemy in the eye! Surely you can understand that! To find out my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns? She just curled those beautiful lips of hers. Beautiful lips of hers. I'm just... The woman was looking at her mentor's killer in the eye and still said she was really pretty and I would want to kiss her lips. That's how I heard it. How else am I supposed to interpret that? That's no heterosexual explanation. She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually. Ah, yes. Benny Memo-san, one small question, if you don't mind. I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy? Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably then, it was you who wrote this article about what you've heard. Exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in the morning's edition of Shuya News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else. Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Yes, look at this. The entire article. It's almost what I said to Miss Brett, word for word. Well, Minimomo-san? as a journo and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of minimalism. Was Clay right about this? A reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut. Okay, that's very important indeed. So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her. Shut up! My stories never stink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I want to go on record. Very well, you may amend your formal testimony. The point is, if I poison someone, there'd be no reason then to then go and stab the person as well. Okay. And when I heard the student girl that pompous English got my goat, because why would I bother stabbing when I already poisoned her? He says it twice. Proves I'm innocent. Okay. You poison someone, there'd be no reason.
Hold it!
Perhaps you doubted the efficiency of the poison and sought to make sure the victim would die. And that's horse dung. What? That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you've even tasted it. Completely reckless. Although, it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of a ambitious pepper pourer as it happens. If the victim had taken the poison, she would have been only minutes away from death. And yet this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There has to be a good reason for that. It was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly. He must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, that's undeniable. Between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, it was a very crucial change in the situation. Sorry? What changed? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the English. Yes, that's it! That's when Memino-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he used. That could be the key here. Oh. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have no reason to stab her. On the face of it, the logic sounds entirely reasonable. There's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. I can think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poison. I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for. Yes, I agree. In order to do that, I must try to glean more information. So we have it. We have the thing. Why would I bother to stab the woman if I've already poisoned her? What is the second response? Because I want to see. Then go and stab the person as well. There actually is. He found out. Eagerly developed, following the lecture. Enter the body with the current methods cannot detect this newly developed chemical. The university would be consulted. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Be suggested of this toxin. It's apparently entirely new and rumored to be commissioned by the military. So it has to be this, right?
Objection!
Well, I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut? Of course he did! There could be no less question about that. After all, when we were in the laboratory together, all we were told is that it was a terrible toxin. There's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Mbami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been possible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Momo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. The defendant had somehow found an opportunity. This man would have seen it. Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Mbami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. I walked into the hut. I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Momo-san overheard some worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? The information which he suspiciously included in his newspaper article. Namely, the poison was being developed in strict secrecy, and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. Only possible place it could have come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. Extreme constriction of the pupils. Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Ugh. Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've already been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Mbami-san being no exception. Therefore, conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson, unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you, Renton Minimomo. Ugh! It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day. It was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that was a terrible mistake. Because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts. You already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen.
Objection!
But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, Consul? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction. But he had hoped to participate in the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would have ever suspected. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identifiable. But the killer had to mask its use. She attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back. Ugh. Order, order, order! Argument presented is sound. Court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? Well, there are a number of... I mean, yes! I counter completely!
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he clings to lost hope. Fuck. That was raw. Holy shit, dude. Yeah, that wrecked him. Fuck. Hold it.